Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I wanted to take a review of all three of the brand new uniforms from the Spider-Man Homecoming update. I've gotten a lot of questions specifically about anti-venom, the new costume for Venom, and the Hobo Spidey homemade costume in conjunction with the movie for our new Spider-Man. I'm also going to be talking about Vulture today, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different format as far as showing you guys the skills in the preview. Keep in mind, if you want to see actual gameplay or world boss stuff, I did it on the live stream, but I will be showing you in the upcoming videos later on YouTube, so stay tuned for that. Now, as far as these three uniforms go, I want to start off by saying that I don't think any of these are meta-defining or changing uniforms. I think that each uniform does something different for the character, and some of them are better than others in terms of the uniform's value, but at the end of the day, none of these three characters you're seeing are now suddenly in the top 5 or even top 10 best characters in the game. So I wanted to kind of put that out there for you guys at the beginning, so that there's not confusion about, Spider-Man is the new Jean Grey counter or something like that. While these uniforms are good, sometimes even great, I don't think there's going to be a massive shift in the way that PvP scenarios play out. I don't think web resist is going to become the new meta as far as obelisks are concerned, but there is still a lot of good things to pull out from these uniforms. So we're going to start off with the lesser of the three uniforms as far as hype is concerned, the Vulture uniform. A lot of people are choosing this one to buy simply because of the look. His default uniform is kind of iconic from the comics and the 90s cartoon series, but it looks a bit weird. He's bald, he's got this big thing on his neck, it's just kind of goofy looking, but his Homecoming uniform is quite badass. And if you go into the uniform list, you'll see that it gives him extra damage to superhero types, which is pretty strong given how many superheroes we have at the top of kind of conquest results and stuff like that. We have all the X-Men, except Magneto, Doctor Strange and his friends, Sharon Rogers, etc. In addition, it says that all 5 skills are changed, which sounds like, wow, such a unique shift. The character is basically like 2 different ones that you're playing. Not quite. Although all 5 skills do change in some small way, those small ways are hard to notice at times, except for visually speaking. I think his damage does go up with his uniform, so if you want it based on that, definitely go ahead and grab it. But there isn't going to be a radical shift the way that we're used to seeing when a character has something like all 5 skills changed with their uniform. It's not as intense or as dramatic of a switch as some people might believe just by looking at that uniform preview. But as far as his skills are concerned, we can see here that the first skill through the 5th skill change sort of in some ways. A lot of the times where he uses a gun or when he uses a grenade are actually replaced with his new uniform by this kind of purple pulse blast, which I believe to be energy damage. In addition, his 3rd skill, Air Pursuit, is now actually typed as energy damage. It's part of his physical damage, but it does give him a bit more wiggle room against reflect stages on Shadowlands or against enemies that have a specific type of reflect, like Destroyer or Luke Cage. Keep in mind that he has the same number of iframes whether he has his default look or his uniform, so you don't actually get an upgrade on the iframes. The other thing is that he has both bleed and burn damage on his skills. He has bleed or burn on 2, 3, and 5 without his uniform. With his uniform, the bleed and the burn damage actually are taken away, and that's what I think contributes to the fact that he has more damage with his base skills with his uniform on, because they had to take away that damage over time because he's no longer lobbing grenades or using a gun like the original model. He's now using his homemade suit and that purple kind of pulse blast that he delivers at the end of a lot of his skills. So overall, I think it's a decent uniform for a good character. I think the character is strong on his own. The uniform doesn't do a lot to push that narrative, but it just does make things look cleaner and nicer. It gives him a little bit more flexibility. However, it does take away some of his dot damage. Not that it's going to make a big impact overall for his success in the game. I would say this is a useful uniform if you're going to upgrade the character to tier 2. Is it necessary? No. Is it great based on looks alone? Absolutely. Next up we have anti-venom. This is probably the most hyped uniform of the three because of not only the character that we're getting the introduction to, but also with how improved Venom is based on this uniform, because we've said for a long time Venom needs a lot of help. Even with his Marvel Zombies uniform, not a lot has changed for the character from one iteration to the other, and people were hoping for big things from this uniform. So if we take a look at the bonuses, huge HP that is healed up for the whole team. It is on a 20-second cooldown, but that is a very useful skill for all kinds of PvP interactions. Shadowland King of the Hill, regular Shadowland, Conquest, etc. So that is a very useful tool for him. In addition, it says, again, all 5 skills changed. So you see massive overhauls to the character's playability. Now, I do want to say that there are some fundamental changes to some of his skills, however, not all of them. We can see here that his second skill now provides an HP heal. You can discuss the details of the heal in a later topic. And then his fourth skill now has a heal as well, and an iframe, as you'll see. And then his fifth skill also provides a heal, and a massive heal at that. This basically heals him up for most of his health, if not all of his health, from 0 all the way back up to whatever number you have. So he does get a dramatic improvement in his survivability based on all of these heals. He also gets the heal blobs like Carnage when his fourth skill finishes its animation. However, some of his other skills are basically just being reskinned but not actually changed. His first skill does have a little bit of a change, but it's basically still a lunging attack with a melee component. His second skill, aside from the heal, is basically the same. His third skill is identical, except it goes from being a blackish purplish color to a whitish grayish color. His fourth skill is totally redone, that much is sure. More AoE, many more hits, and an iframe, so this becomes probably his best skill and the most compelling reason for why you would buy this uniform. And then his fifth skill is exactly the same. It's got a CC component to it. It pulls the enemies in, and then it does some damage. The only difference is now it also heals up Venom for a massive amount of HP. Overall, I would say that this uniform does transform this character in many ways. It also changes him from a villain to a hero, so that is important to note for Shadowlands if you want that flexibility. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that without this uniform, he is a bit of a zero. The character himself, Venom's default look, and by extension his other uniform, did not get any rework whatsoever. So investing in this uniform is basically investing in a brand new character, because this is the only one you're going to use. If you try to use his default uniform, in most cases you're going to be disappointed. Not to say that he's not totally useless. He definitely has some niche in Shadowlands, especially with all his crowd control, but this is more a case of a uniform redefining a character rather than just making them better when they were already decent. Venom was definitely a below average character prior to this. He's definitely an above average character with this uniform. I would say this is probably one of the more value laden uniforms you can buy, if not the most value laden uniform here. This will take, if you have a tier 2 Venom and you kind of feel like he's lackluster, this will put a new polish on him for sure. So I think this one is a bit more of a safe bet if you want to buy just one of the uniforms. But we still have one more to check out, Spidey. Now, Spidey was about average, maybe slightly above average before his uniform. He already had 3 to his name. He had a lot of crowd control and some guaranteed dodge, which made him quite strong in PvP encounters, especially since a lot of people don't prepare for webbing. However, damage was very low and everything was very single target, so he was difficult to use against mobs, and it was difficult to target his skills in some situations because he was just very singularly focused. So his new uniform, as you will see, gives him a huge bump to his dodge. I originally thought this was a pretty useless add-on, but I can say now that it's very easy to cap his native dodge stat. This doesn't interact with guaranteed dodge. They're kind of separate track effects. but it's very easy to max out his dodge to 75%, which is the cap. 75% dodge plus another 25% guaranteed from his tier 2 passive is strong. That is not a small number to ignore. So I am amending my original judgment of that. In addition, it says 3 of his skills, Web Blast, Web Slinger, and Web Fling, have been changed. However, unlike Venom, he also got a rework to all of his other uniforms. So his 5th skill is now an iframe regardless of the uniform you're using. So that is another unintended bonus that you can get. Wrecking Web is now just straight up an iframe no matter what uniform you're using. In addition, Web Slinger, his 3rd skill, while it is different, the changes are very minute. All they add is an extra pull on the last animation that provides a kick, similar to Miles Morales' 3rd skill. His 1st skill, Web Blast, is the same throughout all of his uniforms besides his default look, so there isn't a lot of change there aside from the fact that it's just the iframe that you've come to expect from his Civil War uniform. So really, you're only buying this uniform for his 4th skill, Web Fling. But I must say, it is a very strong, very compelling uniform to buy. Massive AoE damage, massive crowd control, and an iframe, all bundled into a 10-second cooldown skill, which drops to 5 seconds. And the skill itself takes 2 or 3 to animate. So you can almost constantly have this skill up and running. It's quite insane. It provides 4 seconds of webbing when you have his tier 2 passive. So this skill alone can crowd control most opponents for the majority of the fight. Very, very strong effect. Now, the other big question is, does this uniform make Spider-Man the new Alliance Battle Extreme Speed Hero champion? While there hasn't been a lot of time to test it, we've only had the Speed Hero Day up for about 16 hours now, I am getting reports that it's not the case. Kid Kaiju is still top dog for Speed Hero. Now, this may change in the coming weeks. Someone may come out with a new strategy or a new skill rotation that edges out Kid Kaiju, but I don't see this uniform becoming the new top dog by a long shot. This isn't the case of Agent Venom coming in and totally wiping the floor with Iron Fist, or the case where Iron Fist's new uniform totally wiped the floor with Moon Knight's old setup. So I would try to temper your expectations as far as Extreme Alliance Battle. If you do want to get this uniform, you're primarily picking it up because it looks awesome. It makes Spider-Man a lot tankier because he gets extra iframes, and he also gets extra CC and extra dodge, and also because it's going to make him a super headache in PvP situations. I've already seen clips of him soloing on auto Jean Grey. Now, I know what I said at the beginning of the video, he's not a Jean Grey counter, but he's a lot closer than he ever was or would be with any of his other uniforms. So I would say that alongside anti-venom, this is probably a solid pickup. I would put it maybe slightly below a anti-venom if you do want to go based on just the value of the uniform to the character. I think anti-venom's uniform really brings him up a few grade levels from a D to like a B+, whereas Spider-Man was already a solid B- or a C+, so it only brings him up maybe 1 letter grade to an A- or a B+ in this situation. However, I do think all 3 of these uniforms are good in their own right. They're creative, they look really nice, and they animate very well, and that's primarily the aesthetic part of the uniforms and how they look, and then secondarily how they affect the gameplay, because we don't want a situation where a character is totally crap but then amazing with a uniform. We do want to have some balance so that you're not forced to buy the uniform for you to be successful with that character. So let me know what you guys think of this review. Let me know what you think of the new format as far as showing you the skills. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.